Hey everyone, Alex Terrace here, back with another infrared sauna review. I am one of the few infrared sauna brokers in this industry of the last 14 years, which means I'm a dealer for many sauna brands. Most of the people you'll talk with in the industry usually sell one specific brand, so they're a little bit biased. Or they may only sell two brands, so they may be more biased to sell one or the over the other. So I have many different offerings, and I make these videos to help you, the consumer, try to sort through a lot of the confusion in this product category. I do work in many other categories as well. If you have questions at the end of this video, just best way to contact me anytime, 7 days a week, is send me an email, and my email address will be below in the description. So getting into it, as you can see that I have pulled up here is the sauna company called Peak Saunas, and we are actually in this video going to review these quote full spectrum, see that right there, full spectrum heaters, which are those guys right there in the back on the back wall. Okay, and I will show you another model that has them on the front wall on the glass section from a very well-known brand, Clearlight Saunas. But we're just going to very briefly just talk about one aspect of these heaters, because in other videos I do talk a little bit more about why the efficacy of them, or the effectiveness, the usefulness, at least with the way that some saunas arrange them, is not as beneficial as other types of emitters. Basically, the emitters, that term, is the heaters that produce infrared on your body. So, first thing I just want to say is, when you're shopping for a sauna company, considering a brand, you should always also consider how long the company's been around, and then factor that in. If they happen to have like a long warranty term, just generally in this industry in the last 20 plus years, we have little stretches of about, every 6 years, or 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 years, a significant percentage of sauna companies go out of business. And so you should be aware of that. All right, so these full spectrum heaters, and I do have some testing coming out soon that is going to show you the actual wavelength distribution curve of these, but it's calling them full spectrum is a little bit of a misnomer. It's a little misleading or confusing if you know the actual output range or a bunch of wavelengths that come off of this. So if you do have more questions about this topic, just send me a message and email. But generally speaking, using these on the back wall close to your body, I wouldn't necessarily recommend for one reason that you may not be aware of, which is that the electrosmog levels on these types of heaters is much higher than these carbon heaters that you see right here, you see in black, that a good percentage of brands have. They have usually these types of carbon heaters. But these are actually higher, so we're going to actually pop over to one of my videos I did on the Clearlight Sanctuary many years ago, and let's see what levels I am testing here. Alright, so this is the interior of a Clearlight Sanctuary. As you can see, obviously the carbon emitters are on the walls, and on the front side of the glass, which you'll see here in a moment, that is where the high watts, and they refer to them as full spectrum heaters. This company actually was the first company to put these in their saunas. Not these guys right here. You'll see in a second. I'm gonna actually just bounce right over. You see these right here on the glass doors. So they were actually the first company to put these in an infrared sauna, and so I was testing this in one of the showrooms. So my infrared meter here that I have is a pretty good one, but I'm actually testing the milligauss, so the magnetic field coming off of this electric field, and I'll read out some of the numbers since it's a little harder to see here. Alright, get a little bit better levels, but 14.3, 17.8, 13.2, 13.9, and again, that's mg, okay, the magnetic portion. So if you measure now the carbons over here by comparison, they'll average 0.7 to like 1 milligauss. And there are other brands that also have carbon emitters on the walls, and they can be under 1 milligauss or somewhere around 1 to 1.5, you know, somewhere around that. Generally speaking, most better brands with carbon emitters, it's, you know, pretty low in terms of this way of measuring the electrosmog. And of course, comparing like a carbon emitter like this to the other high watt, which we're testing here, as you can see, there is a substantial difference. So now let's take a little step back for a second and just comment on the design here. Now those high watt heaters are a distance from the body, okay? When you're sitting on the bench, that's what I was testing right there, but I was actually testing it in a 1-person, not a 2-person, okay? But yes, that magnetic portion of the electrosmog is high. However, when you're seated here, your body is many inches away from this, and at that distance there's absolutely zero electrosmog radiation that's actually reaching you, okay? So there's really quite a distance here, even just a few inches away. If I should have taken the meter a few inches away from it, but it drops to almost nothing. So there isn't, you know, sometimes there's people who are known electrosensitive people, and where your front calves are, like here on the front of the bench, that you're a little bit closer with your calves and your knee and your feet to this. You know, for some people who are extremely sensitive, which is pretty rare, then they may have an issue with that. But generally speaking, if you're listening to this, you're probably not that sensitive, and would be completely fine, because really your exposure is nothing technically when you're measuring with a meter. So I just wanted to share that. So these high watt heaters, which are referred to by several companies now as full spectrum heaters, those are higher in the electrosmog range. Now, when you put them into the back here, where you're leaning right up against it, you're going to be in fairly close proximity to those types of heaters. And so at that range where your back is close here, like in this example of this brand, Peak Saunas, that would be, you know, too close or not an optimal range. So you would be getting a much more significant amount of that electromagnetic radiation into your entire spine, your neck, everything, your brain. So that would be less optimal. So that's one reason you wouldn't want to necessarily put these on the back walls, and you might want them a little bit more of a distance from the body, like the front walls. Now, saunas, some companies have usually put them on the front walls to get basically more intensity in the sauna. Obviously, there's a bunch of glass, right, on many saunas, and not as much heat, right, not as much infrared. So positioning them in the front of the sauna is usually a better place for a higher watt heater like this. So these are much higher wattage than carbons, okay? So that's reason for concern. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going with this brand. Or there is 2 more brands on the market as well that do all have this as well, this type of high watt heater in the back. So, you know, same, you know, recommendation would be to avoid those couple other brands as well that are kind of setting up their saunas that way. And yeah, I think that's all I want to say about those particular heaters. So generally, heaters that are closest to your body, or emitters, you want those to be ones that have an optimal range of absorption, you know, and these heaters don't produce a very optimal absorption range or peak wavelengths. And you also want them to be, of course, low in smog. So the last thing I was going to say is, I do have a couple other industry people I know, and they've tested these and found the ELF, the electrical field measurements, which is basically volts expressed as volts per meter, VM, is somewhere around 300. Okay, I would imagine from some manufacturers might be a little higher, but basically around 300 is what they measured. And that I will have some new measuring videos of the volts per meter for these high watt heaters coming out very shortly, probably in like a month. So I will post that here. But if you are, again, looking for a sauna that's also lower in ELF, again, you wouldn't want these heaters right close to your body. So, and since I have your attention, and we talked about how positioning heaters is really important for getting benefits or not getting benefits, just remember that that is another important thing to look at when you're evaluating a sauna. So in the case of like this brand, Sun Home Saunas, red light and near infrared LEDs, this is positioned on the front glass wall. That's what this is, the front glass wall, and then the bench is over here. This is basically too far from your body. So remember, we talked about with electrosmog, those other types of heaters, you want those a safe distance from your body. Well, the opposite is true for getting the benefits of red light exposure and near infrared with LEDs, which is known as photobiomodulation therapy. In the case of that, let's see if I can get another photo. On the case of that, based on where the bench is over here, I have to laugh because it's so silly. It's just too far. It's basically way too far. So you basically need to have your body in fairly close distance to LEDs like this with these panels, and so at a distance past 12 inches or something like that, the drop off in deliverable power to your body that is responsible for the photochemical response metabolically it's just extremely low. It's too low to actually get adequate dosing regimens based on the 5,000 plus studies. So in the case of these types of heaters, but they're not really heaters, they're non-thermal. Okay, so these are cool, there's no heat produced. In the case of this light therapy, these are too far. So you actually wouldn't want them on the front glass doors in this case, or somewhere near the front of the sauna. So I just kind of wanted to point out that this is another thing we need to look at with saunas, is the positioning of where the emitters are in, and what type of emitter it is. And that will really affect where it's going to be positioned in there, okay? So again, that's where those LEDs are, and that's foolish. Do you get some of the benefits of red light in your eyes that could help you with circadian rhythms and better sleep? Yes, absolutely. So if you had the red light coming in your eyes and you did a nighttime sauna session, that has been shown to help with sleep. Granted, you can, of course, do red light therapy in your eyes very, very cheaply, very affordably, with anything, with a cheap red bulb or a really cheap LED device in your eyes for like 1 minute or 2 minutes in the evening time. Or if you have a red light mask for your skin, which is great, it's amazing for your skin, for your face, you can just keep your eyes open for some of that, and you can use that mask right before bed, which is ideal, and get some of those circadian improved sleep benefits. So I just wanted to point out, it's not totally useless if you see a sauna that has these on the front glass doors, but you're basically paying a premium price just for some circadian benefits, some sleep improvement, which again could be obtained for like $20 or $100 or whatever, depends on what type of device you're getting with LEDs. So again, there are a couple other brands out there that if you see the LED panels like this on the front of the sauna, far away from the bench, like more than 12 inches or whatever, that would not be a good investment at all. You're basically now spending a lot of money for these types of panels, that will not really give you any therapeutic outcomes. If you do want photobiomodulation therapy, and again, this is a new addition to the infrared sauna industry in relatively more recent times, some years ago. There are better ways to get standalone outside of the sauna health benefits, photobiomodulation, by basically I don't really recommend panels, even though I do sell them sometimes. I recommend high power medical grade diodes that come in pads that can be put directly on your body, so you can absorb as much of that energy as possible. And you can also multitask and do that while you're seated or laying down or whatever, versus with the panels, it's not really convenient, it's not portable. You basically have to set time aside and sit in front of it or whatever. So that's it for now in this video. Now you know that some heaters in saunas have higher electrosmog, and ideally you want to keep those further away from your body. Okay, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions about those types of heaters or specific brands of sauna that you would like me to review, or you have like some feedback on, just send me a quick email or leave a question below in the comment of this video. Thanks.